I'm standing in the bridal suite at the Rosewood Hotel on Madison Avenue, New York City, holding my wedding dress while my phone buzzes with a video I was never supposed to see. My maid of honor just sent it with 3 words. "I'm so sorry." I press play and watch my fiancé Brandon kissing my cousin Melissa in the coat check room of Sullivan's Steakhouse downtown. The timestamp says last night. Our rehearsal dinner was last night. My hands are shaking so hard I almost drop the phone, but I don't scream. I don't cry. I just stand there watching the 47-second video on repeat while my bridesmaids knock on the door asking if I'm ready. Ready? Oh, I'm ready. Just not for the wedding they're expecting. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button now. Your support means everything to me, especially if you've ever felt betrayed by people you trusted most. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. Let me back up so you understand exactly how we got here. I'm Kiera, 29 years old, and I've been with Brandon for 4 years. We met at a marketing conference in Chicago at the Palmer House Hotel, where I was presenting on social media strategy, and he was pretending to pay attention while actually trying to get my number. He was charming, successful, and persistent in a way that felt flattering instead of creepy. He worked in commercial real estate, drove a Tesla, and had this smile that made my stomach flip. 6 months later, he proposed at Tavern on the Green in Central Park with a ring that cost more than my car. Everyone said we were perfect together. His family loved me. My family adored him. Melissa, my cousin who I'd been close to since childhood, even joked that she wished she could find someone like Brandon. Now here's what nobody knew. For the past 3 months, I'd been feeling something was off. Brandon started working late more often, taking calls in the other room and being weirdly protective of his phone. Classic signs, right? But every time I brought it up, he'd get defensive and turn it around on me. "You're being paranoid, Kiera. Do you not trust me? After everything we've built together." And because I'm an idiot who wanted to believe the best in people, I backed down. I even apologized for questioning him. Meanwhile, Melissa had been around constantly, helping with wedding planning, attending dress fittings, and always asking about Brandon. How's he handling the wedding stress? Is he excited? Does he ever get cold feet? I thought she was being supportive. Turns out she was gathering intel. The video came from Tessa, my best friend since college who was supposed to be my maid of honor until Melissa guilt-tripped me into giving her the position. Tessa had been at Maginty's pub in Brooklyn last night with some friends when she spotted Brandon and Melissa slipping into the coat check area. She followed them with her phone recording, smart woman. The video shows everything. Brandon's hands in Melissa's hair, Melissa whispering, "After tomorrow, we won't have to hide anymore." And Brandon responding, "Just a few more hours, baby. Then Kiera will be locked in and we can figure out the rest." Figure out the rest. Like I'm a problem to be solved instead of a human being whose life they're destroying. That's when something inside me just snapped into crystal clarity. I called Tessa immediately. "How long have you known?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. She hesitated. "I suspected for about 6 weeks, but I didn't have proof until last night. I saw them having coffee together at Blue Bottle in Chelsea, and the way they were looking at each other wasn't cousin-appropriate. I've been trying to catch them ever since because I knew you'd never believe me without evidence." She was right. I wouldn't have believed her. I would have defended Brandon, made excuses, and probably damaged our friendship in the process. Because that's what I'd been trained to do my whole life, give people the benefit of the doubt, be understanding, prioritize everyone else's comfort over my own instincts. Well, that version of Kiera died the moment I pressed play on that video. I had exactly 3 hours until the ceremony. 3 hours to decide whether to walk down that aisle and pretend everything was fine, or burn it all down in the most spectacular way possible. Most people would cancel quietly, send everyone home, and deal with the humiliation privately. But here's the thing about me that Brandon clearly never understood. I'm a strategic planner by profession. I built my entire career on crisis management and reputation control. And right now, I was about to manage the hell out of this crisis, just not in the way anyone expected. I opened my laptop and started typing. Then I made 3 phone calls, one to Tessa, one to the videographer, and one to my brother Kyle who worked in audio-visual production. "I need your help," I told him, "and I need you to not ask questions until after." My bridesmaids were getting suspicious about why I'd been locked in the suite for 40 minutes. "Kiera, we need to start getting you dressed. Hair and makeup are waiting," Jessica called through the door. I checked my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were dry. My hands had stopped shaking. I felt nothing except a strange, cold determination that I'd never experienced before. "Coming," I called back, plastering on a smile as I opened the door. They rushed in, all excitement and champagne, completely oblivious to the bomb I was about to detonate. I let them fuss over me, zip me into my dress, adjust my veil, and tell me how beautiful I looked. The whole time, my phone kept buzzing with texts from Brandon. "Can't wait to see you, soon to be Mrs. Martinez. I'm the luckiest man alive. Forever starts today, baby." The ceremony was set up in the hotel's grand ballroom overlooking Central Park South, with 200 guests already seated and waiting. Brandon's family took up the right side, including his mother who'd spent the past year critiquing every wedding decision I made. My family filled the left, with Melissa sitting in the third row looking absolutely radiant in her burgundy bridesmaid dress. She caught my eye as I peeked through the doorway and gave me this huge, supportive smile. The audacity was almost impressive. Brandon stood at the altar looking nervous but happy, adjusting his tie and joking with his best man. The string quartet was playing softly. Everything looked perfect, like a scene from a bridal magazine. My father appeared at my side to walk me down the aisle. "Ready, sweetheart?" he asked, offering his arm. "Actually, Dad, there's been a change in plans," I said quietly. "I need you to trust me for the next 10 minutes, okay? No matter what happens, just trust me." He looked confused but nodded. My father and I had always been close. He'd supported every decision I'd ever made. Even the questionable ones. This would be no exception. I signaled to the wedding coordinator who gave the cue to start. The doors opened. The music swelled. Everyone stood and turned to look at me, and I walked down that aisle with my head high, clutching my bouquet in one hand and my phone in the other. Brandon's face lit up when he saw me. Melissa dabbed fake tears from her eyes. My mother looked proud. Everyone was smiling, completely unaware that I was about to give them a show they'd never forget. I reached the altar and handed my bouquet to Melissa, looking her straight in the eyes. "Thanks for being here today," I said sweetly. "It really means the world to me that you'd stand by my side on such an important occasion." She squeezed my hand. "Wouldn't miss it for anything, babe." Brandon took my hand, and I felt absolutely nothing. No love, no anger, just a cold, clinical detachment that made everything easier. The efficient Reverend Patterson from St. Patrick's Cathedral began his welcome speech. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Brandon and Kiera in holy matrimony." I let him get through the standard opening before I cleared my throat. "Actually, Reverend, if you don't mind, I'd like to say something before we continue." Brandon looked surprised but amused. "Of course, sweetheart. The floor is yours." I turned to face our guests, all 200 of them dressed in their formal attire, holding programs with our names printed in gold script. "First, I want to thank you all for being here today. It means so much that you take time out of your lives to celebrate what you thought would be the happiest day of mine." A few confused glances were exchanged, but most people just smiled, assuming this was part of the ceremony. I also want to thank my wedding party, especially my cousin Melissa, who's been so incredibly supportive throughout this entire process. She's really gone above and beyond in ways I never could have imagined. Melissa looked uncomfortable but maintained her smile. Brandon's grip on my hand tightened slightly. He knew something was wrong, but he had no idea what was coming. "The thing is," I continued, my voice carrying clearly across the silent ballroom, "I've learned something important in the past few hours. I've learned that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who betray you worst. I've learned that love isn't always what it seems, and I've learned that I deserve better than what I was about to settle for." Now people were definitely confused. Brandon's mother stood up. "Kiera, what are you doing?" I pulled my hand free from Brandon's. "I'm doing something I should have done weeks ago, Brandon. I'm choosing myself." His face went pale. "Kiera, let's talk about this privately." "No," I cut him off. "We're done talking privately. We're done with secrets and lies. Kyle." My brother stood up from his seat in the third row and walked to the AV booth at the back of the ballroom. "Last night at our rehearsal dinner at Sullivan's Steakhouse, I thought we were celebrating the start of our forever," I said, addressing the crowd. I gave a speech about trust and partnership and building a life together. I meant every word. Brandon was trying to grab my arm now. Kiera, stop this right now. You're making a scene. Oh, Brandon, I'm just getting started. You see, while I was giving that speech about trust, you were in the coat check room with my cousin. Kyle, can you please play the video? The projection screen behind the altar flickered to life. And there it was, 47 seconds of high-definition proof, playing for everyone to see. The gasp that went through the ballroom was like a physical wave. Melissa's face went from red to white to green in about 3 seconds flat. The video played on loop while people pulled out their phones to record this disaster. Brandon's mother was screaming. My mother was crying. Brandon's best man looked like he wanted to disappear, and Brandon himself stood frozen, watching his life implode in real time. "Turn it off," he shouted at Kyle. "Turn it off right now." But Kyle, bless him, kept it rolling. Melissa tried to run, but Tessa and Jessica blocked the exit. "Oh no," Tessa said loudly. "You're going to stay and face what you've done." I turned back to Brandon, who looked like he might actually throw up. For the record, I knew about this before I walked down the aisle. I chose to come here anyway because I wanted everyone to see exactly who you really are. Kiera, please, it's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, Brandon. Security was trying to restore order, but the ballroom had erupted into chaos. Brandon's father was shouting at Melissa's parents. My bridesmaids were surrounding me protectively. Guests were either recording everything on their phones or trying to get quotes for the gossip they'd be spreading for months. And I stood in the center of it all, still wearing my wedding dress, feeling more powerful than I'd felt in years. "I'm not going to marry you, Brandon," I said calmly. "Obviously. But I did want to give you a wedding gift before I go." I pulled an envelope from my bouquet where I'd hidden it. "These are the keys to the apartment we were supposed to move into next week. I've already taken my name off the lease. It's all yours now. You and Melissa can figure out how to afford it together." Then I turned to Melissa, who was sobbing dramatically in her seat. "And for you, cousin, I have something special too." I pulled out another envelope. "Remember when you asked me to co-sign that loan for your art studio 6 months ago, the one you said was your dream project? Well, I called the bank this morning. Turns out you've been defaulting on payments for 3 months, but don't worry, I paid it off in full this morning. Consider it my wedding gift to you. You're welcome." Her jaw dropped. "That's $30,000. You paid off my loan." "I did, and now you owe me $30,000, which I'll be collecting through my lawyer starting Monday, with interest." The crowd was absolutely eating this up. Someone near the back actually applauded. Brandon finally found his voice. "You're insane, Kiera. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." "No, Brandon, the biggest mistake of my life was wasting 4 years on someone who was too weak to be honest with me," I shot back. "You could have broken up with me at any point. You could have told me you had feelings for Melissa. Instead, you decided to marry me while sleeping with her, and then what? Keep her as your side piece. String us both along until one of us figured it out." He had no answer, because there was no answer. "I hope it was worth it," I continued. "I hope those stolen moments and secret texts were worth destroying your reputation, embarrassing your family, and losing the best thing that ever happened to you." His mother was still screaming something about suing me for emotional distress. I almost laughed. "Good luck with that, Patricia. I've got video evidence of adultery and about 200 witnesses to his lies." I turned to address the room one final time. "For everyone who traveled to be here today, I sincerely apologize for the wasted trip. But I wanted you all to see this because I spent 4 years being gaslit and made to feel crazy for trusting my instincts. I wanted witnesses to the truth." I picked up my bouquet and handed it to my mother, who was crying but also looked oddly proud. "I'm going to leave now. The reception is fully paid for at the Water Club on East River Drive, so please stay and enjoy the food and the open bar on Brandon's dime. Consider it my thank you for bearing witness to my liberation." Then I hiked up my wedding dress, kicked off my heels, and walked barefoot down that aisle toward the exit while the ballroom erupted behind me. Tessa and Jessica caught up with me in the hallway. "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen," Jessica said, hugging me tight. "Are you okay?" Honestly, I felt amazing, terrifying but amazing. We went back to the bridal suite where I'd already arranged for a change of clothes. I peeled off that wedding dress, which had cost $6,000 of my own money, and put on jeans and a leather jacket. The transformation felt symbolic. I was literally shedding the version of myself who would have stayed with a cheater just to avoid making a scene. My phone was blowing up with messages. Friends offering support. Family members confused about what just happened. Unknown numbers asking for interviews. And one text from Brandon, "You're going to regret this." I blocked his number without responding. There was nothing left to say to him. Over the next week, the video went viral on social media. Someone had posted their recording from the wedding and it got over 15 million views across platforms. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. "This is what self-respect looks like. She's my new hero. I wish I had her courage." But there were also plenty of critics saying I'd handled it wrong, that I should have canceled privately, that I'd embarrassed myself as much as Brandon. I didn't care. Because here's what those critics didn't understand. I needed that public moment. I needed to take back my power in front of everyone who'd ever told me to be quieter, nicer, more understanding. I needed to stop protecting people who hurt me just because it made others comfortable. Brandon tried calling from different numbers, showing up at my new apartment on the Upper West Side, and even sending his mother to talk sense into me. The legal fallout was intense. Brandon tried to sue me for breach of contract regarding wedding expenses and emotional damages. My lawyer, Catherine Chennett Morrison and Associates on Fifth Avenue, laughed in his face. "Your client committed adultery, which is grounds for contract nullification in New York. Also, Ms. Harrison has video evidence that your client was planning to continue the affair after marriage, which demonstrates fraud. Would you really like to pursue this in court?" They dropped the lawsuit within 48 hours. Melissa tried a different approach, playing victim. She posted on social media about how mistakes happen and how people should be allowed to find real love even if it's complicated. The backlash was swift and brutal. Her employer, a marketing firm in Tribeca, let her go after clients started complaining. Her parents stopped speaking to her. Even her own siblings took my side. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work at Blackstone Marketing Group on Lexington Avenue. My boss had given me 2 weeks off after the wedding disaster, but I came back after 4 days because sitting home alone just gave me too much time to think. And thinking led to questions I didn't want to answer yet. Did I still love Brandon? Had I ever really loved him, or had I just loved the idea of being chosen? Was I damaged now, too broken to trust anyone again? My coworkers were amazing. They decorated my office with "You're Better Off" banners and took me to lunch at Smith and Wolensky Steakhouse, where we toasted to new beginnings. My friend Olivia from accounting told me her own story about catching her ex-husband cheating. "The public humiliation feels unbearable at first," she said. "But eventually, you realize that you're not the one who should be embarrassed. They are." 3 months later, I was having dinner with Tessa at Carbone in Greenwich Village when Brandon walked in with a date. Not Melissa, someone new. He saw me, froze, and actually tried to leave. But his date had already seen the table she wanted. They ended up seated 3 tables away from us. I could feel him watching me the entire meal. Tessa wanted to leave. "We don't have to stay here and deal with this." "Actually," I said, finishing my wine, "I think we do, because if I leave, he wins. He gets to think he still has power over me." So we stayed. We ordered the most expensive items on the menu. We laughed loudly. And when Brandon walked past our table on his way out, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I hope she knows to check the coat rooms." His date looked confused. Brandon went pale, and I felt absolutely nothing. 6 months after the wedding that never was, Melissa sent me a letter. An actual handwritten letter delivered to my apartment. In it, she tried to apologize, explaining that she'd been jealous of me our whole lives, and that seeing me happy with Brandon had triggered something dark in her. She claimed they'd broken up weeks after the wedding disaster, that Brandon had blamed her for ruining his life, and that she realized too late that he'd never actually loved either of us. "He loved the idea of having options," she wrote. "I was just the validation that he was desirable enough to attract 2 women. You were the respectable choice he could show his parents. Neither of us were real to him." I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd be ready to forgive her, but that day wasn't today, and honestly, it might never come. A year later, I'm sitting in my new office at my own marketing consultancy, Harrison and Associates, located in a beautiful space in Chelsea. After the wedding video went viral, I'd started getting calls from other women asking for advice on how to leave toxic relationships with dignity. That evolved into a consulting business, helping people manage their personal brand during life transitions. I specialized in divorce announcements, coming out stories, and career changes, basically helping people tell their truth without destroying themselves in the process. The business was thriving. I'd hired 3 employees. I'd been featured in Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine, and I'd started dating again, cautiously, but with much clearer boundaries about what I would and wouldn't accept. I still think about that day in the bridal suite sometimes, holding my phone with shaking hands while my world collapsed. But mostly, I think about the woman who walked down that aisle knowing exactly what she was about to do. That was the day I met the real Kiera, and she's someone I'm proud to be. The story you've just heard represents what happens every day in our society. People betrayed by those they trust most, forced to choose between their dignity and other people's comfort. I'm sharing this to remind you that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. If you were Kiera, would you have exposed them publicly or handled it privately? Would you have given them the chance to explain, or would you have walked away without a word? I want to know your thoughts because every story we share helps someone else find their courage. God bless you, and may you always have the strength to choose your own peace over other people's comfort. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I'm leaving you with one of the most powerful channels for real-life stories, King's Revenge Vault. I promise every story there will leave you inspired and empowered. Thank you for staying with me until this moment, and remember, your worth is not negotiable.